Hello everyone, welcome to and welcome back to my channel Book Time with Elvis with me Mark, and I hope very much you're doing very well on this Sunday day, morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you happen to be watching, and welcome back to my fantastically popular shelf tour series. We're now on volume 4 and it's another shelf that you can't see, but we are going to go through it, and I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible for you because I know, of course, you've all got busy lives and lots of things. Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, it's Dusty. Hello. Well, let Elvis make his appearance. I'm sure he says hello too. Do you say hello? Do you? So, right, let's get started with this particular shelf. As I say, you're not... Well, you can just about see some of it. I'll move a couple of things on top out of the way. Well, you can't see me, and of course that's why you're tuned in, really, isn't it? Well, probably more Elvis than me, but yeah. So the first book is this one here, Steve Jones's book on coral, which is fantastic, actually. He's written some great books on, I don't know, marine biology or other kind of popular science. It's called Coral, a Pessimist in Paradise, and he's equated here as the Alan Bennett of science writing. So yeah, I don't know if we can take out something. What does it say here? He is, or at least he was when he wrote this, Professor of Genetics at University College London and President of the Galton Institute. And what does the book say? What is it about? While writing this book, Steve Jones had beside him a keepsake of his childhood in Wales, the coral brooch that his sea captain grandfather brought back across the Indian Ocean as a gift for his wife. The simple object is one starting point for a dazzling narrative that uncovers some of the unexpected truths coral reveals about the Earth's checkered past and its uncertain future. This breathtaking journey takes in Darwin and Captain Cook, Gauguin on Tahiti, atomic bombs on Bikini Atoll, considers the relationship between immortality and cancer via Ovid, and links symbiosis with anarchism and Beatrix Potter. On the way, Steve Jones considers chaos, tsunamis, and genetic disease on desert islands, and shows how an ancient trade of diamonds for coral is a mirror of today's oil market. Coral is now exploited and destroyed in many ways, and is under siege from climate change. Its fate is a warning that we too may be close to the point of no return. So there we go. Yeah, it's a lovely book actually, and I do think it's a fantastic dust jacket there, and it was a great read. I might have to read it again. It's been a while. So yeah, let's move on. Next up, got a history memoir called "I Flew for the Führer: The Memoirs of a Luftwaffe Pilot" by Heinz Knocke, I guess. A brave and skillful fighter pilot, Hans Knocke flew more than 400 operational missions and rose to the rank of commanding officer before being wounded in an astonishing last stand towards the end of the war. He was awarded the Knight's Cross for his achievements. His memoirs offer a fascinating counterbalance to those written by Allied pilots. Filled with vivid accounts of air battles, they reveal Knocke's intense patriotism and discipline, and plot his own wartime career alongside a study of everyday life in the Luftwaffe. This is both a valuable addition to aviation literature and a moving human story. So, there we go. Okay, next up we have two books by Chekhov. One is The Essential Tales of Chekhov. As readers of imaginative literature, we are always seeking clues, warnings where in life to search more assiduously, what not to overlook, what's the origin of this sort of human calamity, that sort of joy and pleasure, how can we live nearer to the latter, further off from the former, and to such seekers as we are, Chekhov is guide, perhaps the guide. That's from Richard Ford, who writes there the introduction. So it includes 20 tales, and as I said, Richard Ford is the editor of it, and apparently a master short storyteller in his own right. So yeah, that could be pretty good. I've read a couple from it, but I've had it for a good number of years, so I don't remember very well. Probably need to go back. And the next one I've got is actually by Chekhov as well, and it's the island. You can see it actually as just a journey to Sakhalin in some places. I think Alma Classics or Alma Books has a nice version of it. This is an older one published by the Century Travellers, so it seems like that could have been a good series. It's probably a bit heavy to do for the S&M Travel Book Club. It is quite dark and depressing, as you can well imagine. Sakhalin Island at one point belonged to Japan. It's the island just north of Hokkaido, this long island near to Russia, and it was a place for prison colonies in Tsarist, and I guess maybe what do you call it? Communist Soviet Union as well. So yeah, there we go. And and Chekhov went to visit it. He wasn't sent there. He went to visit it, and yeah, this is all about his journey there and what he saw. So okay. Next, we have a few kind of British imperial books, I suppose. One is Khartoum, The Ultimate Imperial Adventure by Michael Asher. Sudan, 1883, and the defeat of the 11,000-strong British Hicks Pasha column at Sheikhan by the Mahdi, God's Expected One, sent shockwaves through the Western world. National hero General Gordon was dispatched to evacuate the country, but instead found himself trapped in Khartoum and surrounded by a vast army of dervishes. Gordon's tragic last stand and Wolsey's heroic, I can't speak today, heroic but futile rescue mission led to the fall of the British government. But the British Empire was not to be deprived of its revenge, and 15 years later, in the arid Nubian dust at Omdurman, it struck back. Michael Asher's account of the Nile campaigns of 1883 to 1898 is a breathtaking story of Victorian imperial misadventure. So there we have it. Next we have two by William Dalrymple, wonderful popular historian and writer on India. He has at the moment a great podcast out called Empire, which looks at the British Empire in India, and currently I believe they're on the Ottoman Empire actually, so it's well worth checking out. One of them here is that glare there, The Last Mogul. In Rangoon in November 1862, an anonymous coffin is buried in eerie silence and the turf carefully replaced to disguise the spot. So ended the life of Bahadur Shah Zafar II, the last of the great Mughals. Zafar was a remarkable poet who turned Delhi into a city of cultural brilliance and learning, but in 1857 his capital became the centre of the greatest anti-colonial uprising in history, which on defeat was reduced to a battered, empty ruin. Award-winning historian William Dalrymple has written a powerful masterpiece of narrative history, the first to present the Indian perspective of the Indian Mutiny in 1857, the Raj's Stalingrad. The Last Mughal has at its heart the story of the Doon Mughal capital, its tragic ruler, and the individuals caught up in one of the bloodiest upheavals in history. And to complement that, I suppose, we have here his book, The Anarchy, The Relentless Rise of the East India Company. So that will probably, of course, include the mutiny, which is, hinted at or discussed in the back of the previous book there. So, yeah, he does. I need to get more of his books. I do very much like him. So, yeah, I think that would be good. I haven't read that yet. Next, we have a book I still haven't read, and I need to. I saw it on Aaron Face's channel ages ago, and I thought, oh, it sounds wonderful. And it's called The Hare with Amber Eyes. 264 Japanese wood and ivory carvings, none of them bigger than a matchbox. Edmund Duval was entranced when he first encountered the collection in his great-uncle Iggy's Tokyo apartment. When he later inherited the Netsuki, they unlocked a story far larger and more dramatic than he could ever have imagined. From a burgeoning empire in Odessa to fin de siècle Paris, from occupied Vienna to Tokyo, Edmund Duval traces the Netsuki's journey through generations of his remarkable family against the backdrop of a tumultuous century. So that sounds great. Still sounds as great as when I heard it on Aaron's channel, and as I said, I can't believe I haven't read it yet. So Now, to early viewers of this channel, this next book will seem familiar. It is a like a selected, condensed edition of Dr. Johnson's dictionary, with all the highlights, if you like, all the best bits in it. I used to use it for my series I did a while back on Wordy Wednesdays, and looked at some funny definitions there from Dr. Johnson. It's compiled and edited by David Crystal, well-known linguist and expert on English, the English language. Things such as a curtain lecture, a reproof given by a wife to her husband in bed, a fop doodle, which is a fool or an insignificant wretch, purportation, the act of drinking, smell feast, a parasite, one who haunts good tables, travel tainted, harassed, fatigued with travel, or vaticide, a murderer of poets. So there we go. Watch out, Poetry Thursdays. The next two books will really largely speak for themselves. They are two books on Penguin classics. They are wonderful books, I have to say. They're very nice kind of reference works. They list all the books in the Penguin Classic Black range there, so they're more the kind of ancient to 19th century classics. And then I have also the Penguin Book of Modern Classics, both by Henry Eliot there, and this of course has in it all the modern classics, and it's arranged by country. So for example, there we have Spain, and it will talk about the Penguin Classic books that are available, with regards to Spain or Lithuania even, or all sorts of different places. So, if you love Penguin books, or if you just love classics and you want a kind of reference work as to what's available, then these are well worth having. They're very nicely put together and lots of interesting information regarding the publication of the books and the books themselves. So I would recommend those for sure. And last up for this shelf, I have one of my two editions of this book. This is a bigger one. This is Kytice by Karel Jaromír Erben, who was a Czech writer, Czech poet, who compiled poetry on folklore and legends of the Czech lands, and he was instrumental in the revival of Czech as a language in the movement and in the mid 19th century to bring Czech back into common usage, or at least giving it literal, because a lot of the language, of course, of bureaucracy and literature and things would have been in German when it was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I suppose, of course, locals spoke Czech, but there wasn't much culturally Czech, at least not written down. So they went into doing that. This includes some nice illustrations, and Kytice means a bouquet, as in a bouquet of flowers, but in this case it's a bouquet of poems, and they are poems, as I say, about kind of Czech mythology. So there's some famous ones in there, such as the wedding shirts. What are the others? Can't remember. Polodnice, or the Noon Witch. The Vodnik, which is the water sprite or water goblin, about a kind of green man who lives in the oceans here in the Czech Republic, lives in the lakes and things here, and if you're swimming, he'll grab you by the ankles and pull you down, and then he collects your soul by putting him in these kind of clay jars, and they have their own collections, and so it's pretty scary really. But that's Kytice by Karel Jaromír Erben, which is worth checking out actually, if you're interested in folklore and fairy tales. And there are a couple of films, like horror films, about it as well, that are available, in and around the internet. Obviously in Czech, but you can get them with English subtitles, so it's not too taxing. So there we have it. That's That's our shelf tour for today, and I did keep it under 20 minutes, so I'm quite proud of myself. Okay, everybody, enjoy the rest of your weekend and see you again soon. Bye bye.